So if you want to make a cart path and that cart path has a loop in it, and I'll explain what that is in a second, there are specific things that you're going to have to do within Inkscape. So a cart path with a loop is, well, it's when a cart path goes around in a circle and meets itself at one point, all right? So it ends up making a circle and then there's a hole, or we commonly call that a donut. No loops are permitted. And I shouldn't say that's not that they're permitted. You can do them. Just Blender and the OPC tools within Blender can't not process those loops or those donuts. So you have two options on how you can proceed. One is you can break the loop, which is you just put a little sliver in it. That works. It's very easy. It's really quick. However, if it's in the sight of the golfer or there's no good place to do that without someone seeing it, maybe that's not what you want to do. So it's not aesthetically pleasing, so to say, right? But most of the time, that's probably going to be your best bet because you can hide those pretty easily. And I'll show you that. The other thing is you can punch down through it. So you might think, well, isn't that creating a loop? No, if you're cutting through a solid cart path and you punch down through it with another shape, then you're actually not it's not a loop per se because you are actually cutting down through that. And I'll show you what I mean by that here in a second. So here is an example of a loop. This is my cart path right here. So you can see it's kind of, it's a loop in that it meets itself. So the cart path goes around these these are tee boxes. It goes around those tee boxes and then meets itself. And then this middle section here that you see that has these two tee boxes in it is, that's the loop. So we can't have that. So we can fix it. The first way, excuse me, the first way to fix that is via a break. So let me show you how to do that. So first of all, you see I have a whole 98 here. That's not necessarily with the new V4 tool, so this is a conversion. But what you want to do is just make sure that you have the path that you have selected, okay? And then we're just going to come over here and we're going to do this draw tool like you're drawing any other shape. And we're just going to do a sliver. Now you want to make sure that you do this someplace where the golfer isn't going to see. Now the golfer, if they're staying on this tee box, they're actually going to be hitting to the left here. So I'm going to put it behind them. So I'm going to put it right here. Let me zoom in just a tad. So I can put this sliver right here. I'm going to go across. I'm going to make this pretty thin. And I'm just making this little tiny shape here, and it is doesn't matter really what the material is. It just happens my last one was a cart path, so you see I've got this cart path here. I'm going to come back up here to my pointer or select tool, and I want to make sure that that little sliver is on top, okay? So it's higher up in the hierarchy than my cart path itself. So now I'm going to highlight, I'm going to hold down the shift key, and I'm going to have that sliver highlighted, and I'm going to highlight the cart path now. I'm going to come up here, I'm going to do object. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm going to do path, difference. You can see what happens is it cuts it. Okay, so now we've broken the loop. So if I zoom out a little bit, you can see that this loop is now, it's not a loop anymore. It's got this break in it. So that's fine as long as this isn't an area where someone's going to see it. So let me show you the second way of doing this. So let me Control Z, and now I'm back to this looped cart path. Now to do the other way, which is punch down through, you have to create a shape that's going to punch down through this. And let me show you how I do this. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go again to my draw shape, and I am going to draw a shape, and I want to make sure that it is completely, that its edges are completely on the cart path. So now I got two shapes here. Let me turn this on and off. So it's just, they're two separate shapes, but they're completely overlapped. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, this is 9072. You have to kind of keep a mental note of what you're creating here, and you don't want to get some duplicates. It's really easy to create duplicates. I'm going to come over here to my pointer tool, and I'm going to duplicate that shape I just made. And that's going to save you a step later on. So now I've got two of these same shapes. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide one of these. So now I'm going to highlight the other one I did. I'm going to change it to the material I want, which is going to be rough. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight my cart path that I'm using, and I'm going to duplicate that as well. So I just duplicated that path, and now that path is on top. You can see it's on top of the green shape that I just created. So I'm going to highlight that. So I've got my cart path that is duplicated, my duplicated version of that. I've got my path, my rough that I just created, which overlaps it. I'm going to come up here and going to make sure that I hold down shift and do it this time. I'm going to say path difference. And it looks like nothing happened at this point, but something very important did happen. First of all, the duplicate cart path we just created has been removed because we did a Boolean operation. And now my green that's in the middle there, let me show you, has been cut perfectly to fill that hole. Okay, see that? So now it's it fills that hole exactly perfectly right. But we still have a loop in here. So let me show you. There's our loop. So how do we get rid of that loop? Well, let's bring back the duplicate area that we created in the middle earlier. So here it is. Okay, I just turned it back on again. I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to hold down shift and also highlight our original cart path. I'm going to come up here to path, union those together. And now you can see what I have is my original cart path. Okay, I'm turning it on and off now. And I've got a shape on top of it, this guy right here, which is going to cut down through that. Now, what's the other issue here? Well, my T boxes are down buried underneath here. So if I highlight this or hide these two, I got my T boxes here. Let me highlight these, find where they're at down here. And essentially, I just have to move these also up to the top. So I'm going to do move to layer 98. I really shouldn't have a whole 98 because that's no longer needed. But now if I turn all these back on, you can see now that this cart path, which is solid underneath there, will get cut by that rough shape we just made, which then gets cut by these two T boxes. Okay, so that's the punch through method. It's a little bit more complex, but you do not have to break your loop if you don't have a good spot or a good visual spot to do that.